Action.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Show Don't Tell, the show where we show ambiguous objects of perception without consistently telling you what they are because we want to support ambiguity. Hello, my name is Jonathan Zapp of zapporacle.com. You know, Carl Jung once said, unequivocalness is the path of death, and ambiguity is the path of life. By contrast, George W. Bush said, you're either with us or you're against us. That unequivocal statement led to an unnecessary war and many unnecessary deaths. On Show Don't Tell, we show you objects, like on Show and Tell, except that they are ambiguous objects, and what we tell you about them may be misleading. So, for example, I have a small collection of extraterrestrial objects salvaged from a crashed saucer near Madrid, New Mexico. They're made of impossibly light metallic alloys with isotopic ratios not found on the Earth. But because they are so unambiguously extraterrestrial, we don't talk about them on the show. You look like you're curious about that.
Well, wow, this is really extraterrestrial.
Strider, how many times do I have to tell you, never believe anything I say?
Okay, I got it. Never believe anything you say.
No. You just did it again. I said, never believe anything I say, and then you instantly believed what I said about that. Remember, ambiguity does not include all or never statements. Never believe anything I said is unambiguous. You may choose to believe some of what I say, disbelieve other things I say, but take most of what I say and what other people say with a grain of salt. In other words, as ambiguous as a mixture of possible truths and falsehoods.
Got it.
No, you just automatically believed what I said again. Forget what I say. Use your discernment.
Why don't you let me on the camera? Because obviously, I can't trust anything you say.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right. He wants to hold the camera now.
Okay.
So, he just took away Peyton's job as cameraman, but that's all right. Don't worry. Okay, yeah, you're right, Strider. You can't trust anything I say. And in this case, I was only pretending to hate your answers for comedic effect. Also, as a former school teacher, I can tell you there are no wrong answers. However, if there were, most of your answers would be prime examples.
Ow.
See how ambiguous that is? That's what we want, ambiguity. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Ambiguity is never clear. It's always unclear. Ambiguity makes never or always statements. But since these ideas I just shared about ambiguity included never and always statements, it's ambiguous whether they're true or not, which is good because that's ambiguous. But anyway, when I asked Strider, is that clear? And some of you guys also answered yes. That's another example of there being no wrong answers. But if there were wrong answers, Strider, you're saying yes would be a perfect example.
Okay.
All right, moving on. It's actually, we're going to talk about, here's our ambiguous object of perception.
Okay.
And it's actually just an old curiosity. According to the guy that I bought it from, take this with a grain of salt, it was a guy showed up in Montrose, Colorado in 1889, claiming to be a time traveler.
What season?
I don't know the season. He wasn't that specific. Okay. But he stayed in Montrose for a couple of weeks in an inn, and then one night he disappeared, didn't pay his bill, but he left behind a steamer trunk with 8 of these cubes.
Do you know about the other 8 or the other 7?
I don't know about the other 7.
Do you know what it does?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. But how do I know if the story, if the seller told me, is true or not?
Well, you don't. It's ambiguous.
Wrong. It is not ambiguous. The seller's story is definitely a lie because I just made it up.
Oh.
You guys have got to stop believing what I say because I'm what's known in literature as an unreliable narrator. Archetypally, you would say I'm a trickster, so you have to be very wary about everything that I say.
Even that?
Well, that's for you to decide. Okay, I'm not here to tell you what to think. So actually, the way I actually got this is one of the Ukrainian, well, I keep saying kids, but they're grown men now, kids I grew up with, who is now a retired nuclear engineer from General Electric. He worked in their in their submarine program. His name is Jerry Zalutsky. He worked in their nuclear sub department. He's retired now, lives in Schenectady, New York, and he sent me this. But this is actually not from a submarine. It's just a cube of spent. Here, why don't you hold that? It's a cube of spent plutonium from an old Soviet breeder reactor, decommissioned in the early 60s. Most of the radioactivity is gone. If you hold it in your hand for less than a minute, it's equal to maybe 6 chest X-rays.
And haven't you been holding it for that long?
No, I passed it to you.
Oh.
But maybe I held it a little bit longer than I'm supposed to. But I'm used to it, so it doesn't really kind of build up a tolerance to radioactivity.
So I should, if I hold this for long enough, I should just
decay.
Now, you know I would not expose you to that kind of dangerous. This is actually just an electrode.
Oh, okay.
But it was salvaged, it came from an interesting place. It was salvaged from a World War II era battleship called the Philadelphia.
What?
And you can Google Battleship Philadelphia to verify that. And this particular electrode was from a massive Tesla coil. Near the end of World War II, you may already know this, the U.S. Navy began experimenting with an early form and not very successful form of stealth technology.
Stealth technology? Like,
which didn't work. It was a spectacular failure, actually. When they powered up the Tesla coils, see, they wanted it to disappear from enemy radar. They thought they could make a whole ship disappear from enemy radar. It didn't actually work. When they powered up the Tesla coils, it caused the mercury. Okay, so it was actually 6 Tesla coils, but there was a big pipe, copper pipe that went around them with mercury. And so the electromagnetic field, I'm not a scientist, so this is my understanding, would spin around at extremely high RPMs, which would create some kind of incredible scalar wave. And they thought this would make the ship invisible to radar. But
Not invisible to the naked eye.
That wasn't their intention. They just wanted to disappear from radar. But when they turned it on, the ship just didn't become invisible to radar. It disappeared altogether.
so what does the cube exactly have to do with
Well, it was just an electrode in that. And the reason why we have the electrode, even though the ship permanently disappeared, is they think it may have been vaporized into scalar waves. But the weird thing is that the 6 Tesla coils showed up back in Bell Labs in Chicago, where they've been built. And no one's been able to explain that.
Bell Labs, not GE?
Bell Labs.
Okay.
The Ukrainian kid was the guy who actually did work for General Electric, but Bell Labs was where they assembled the original Tesla coils.
I don't know. This.
You seem skeptical about that.
I don't know.
I mean, haven't you just been telling us to disbelieve things?
Okay, but that doesn't mean you have to disbelieve everything, or it wouldn't be ambiguous.
Yeah.
Well,
Does it have any special remnants?
Okay,
of
well,
anything?
okay, so actually that is kind of made up. The truth is, you guys know I went on that 32-day road trip. I went to the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, and I got this from some Pakistani guys. Okay. I've gotten some other stuff there for our friend Andrew's store, which is at the Mile High Flea Market. I highly recommend it. Andrew's store at the Mile High Flea Market. And I probably paid too much for it. You really have to know how to haggle with these kind of guys, especially from a place like Pakistan, because they're experts at it. So you never really know if you got a good deal unless you walk off and they call you back. You got to play these games. But my friend Michael Cremo wanted me to get him one of these because I found a smaller one. The last time, 2 years ago, I went to the Gem and Mineral Show. It's called a D-Bolt. They get them from a tungsten mine in Pakistan, and they're supposed to be anomalous cubic crystallizations of tungsten. But which is amazing because
so this is naturally forming.
Yeah, I mean, well, most crystals are hexagonal or cubic, like diamond is cubic. More
spherical.
Crystals, gem crystals, are hexagonal, like these rubies over here. You can see the hexagonal shape here. This is much more common. But fluorite, any ones that are pyramidal, those are cubic. So is diamond cubic. But Michael Cremo has an alternative theory that he wrote about in his seminal book, Forbidden Archaeology. And his theory is that these are man-made objects, the D-bolts. and because they find them in rock matrix at least 100 million years old.
So how could they be man-made?
Well, that's the whole thing, because Cremo believes, if you read Forbidden Archaeology and many of his subsequent works, and his work is taken more seriously in European archaeology than American archaeology, he believes that there's evidence of advanced human civilization that was destroyed by a cataclysm, perhaps a massive thermonuclear war. There's another guy, I can't think of his name at the moment, who
So
who
is it
presented
radioactive?
tremendous,
If it's from a nuclear war?
very, very slightly radioactive.
So more than a minute is okay?
Yes, I think so. But I mean, I don't actually know Michael Cremo. I've actually just read his work, so he didn't actually ask me to get these. So but there were Pakistani guys at the Gem and Mineral Show that I got these from, but they claim that they're molds from an old jewelry factory.
Okay.
Okay. And what they would do is they would take sheets of silver or copper or whatever, and they would bang them into this to make shapes.
So it seems a little
it's
bit
like an anvil.
seems a little bit inefficient because just all of them are spheres, is just like tinier spheres. Or...
Why would you need six sides?
I've asked that same question too, and you know the thing is that like these guys are unreliable narrators, Pakistanis, because they also tried to sell me these iridescent glass fragments that they said was broken Roman glass. But like, does the Roman Empire go into Pakistan? I don't know, but where did they get the Roman glass?
Work, 'cause you got
How
it.
could we verify it? It would have to be carbon dating, you know, and stuff.
Right.
So when I asked my friend Will Goldwaith, who's the jewelry maker, he made some of these bracelets and stuff like that. Actually, he also performed music with Strider Jones here. People can look him up on any musical platform. Strider Jones, and he was in the second song of his second album, Catch 22, called Willpower. But anyway, when I asked Will about this, he said that you could not, these holes are too small to hammer into them, even gold that's so malleable. Because you'd have to have like atomically pure gold.
That would be very
By
difficult.
the way, people don't know that Strider is a sound engineer and has made 2 albums, and it's because he's a lot older than he looked. You're like, what, 19 now, Strider?
Yeah, almost 20.
Almost 20. See, these child stars always look much older, or always are much older than they actually look.
We
I
look
mean, these guys know
about
because
our
they're
age.
child
She's older than us.
But, well, I mean, I know you're saying that to be nice, but anyway, Will says, but Will says you could only make absolutely atomically pure gold in